Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us your takes, give us comments, or just join in on a podcast. Now, let's get to the show. Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff and the clock has started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 17. This is an exciting one because it's probably the last podcast before the regular season starts. I'm joined here today with Fawad. Mike is not here tonight, unfortunately, so it's just me and Fawad holding the fort down. How are you doing tonight, Fawad?
I'm good. Just watching some Blazers basketball.
Yeah, we're watching it right now. It's I think it's the start of the fourth quarter, and we're against the Sacramento Kings, and we're starting to make a little bit of a comeback here in true Blazer fashion, bringing it back in that last quarter like normal.
And then just lose by a hair at the end.
Yep, just nothing new. So we're gonna in this podcast we're gonna talk about the two preseason games because for some reason we had a huge gap in our games. So we're gonna talk about the two that we've had. So let's go with the first game. How did you feel the team looked at that first game?
So the first game, obviously, it was their first actual game with the new coach, slightly new roster as well. So I think I saw a couple things that I liked, but for the most part, I thought it was for the defense specifically. I thought it was mostly the same. We were giving up a lot of good looks, but at times you would notice things clicking, and then they were more aggressive. Like Dame specifically, I noticed was more aggressive, which was good. But overall, I felt like it wasn't anything majorly improved. But on offense, I felt like I noticed a little bit more ball movement, more player movement. So I was happy with that. I didn't really care or pay attention to how each specific player shot, because it's the first preseason game. It means absolutely nothing. We were all looking forward to Nasir Little. He went 1 for 9. I didn't think of it too much. It was just one game. He was probably nervous. So in terms of that, I wasn't really focusing on that in the first place. But as our play went, I liked our offense. A lot more playmaking, a lot more ball movement. Defense, there's still a lot of things that need to be worked on, but um I'm still hopeful that we'll get there.
And I pretty much agree with you 100% on that. I think our defense, which it's to be expected, honestly, most of the players are returning. It looked a lot like what we had seen last year, but there were times where you could see just a little bit more intensity and more focus on defense than there normally was. But with it being the first game and a new coach and a couple new players, it's to be expected that things aren't just going to be instantly clicked. And I think, honestly, maybe the beginning of the season, I don't expect it to be, us coming out defense minded first, like Phillips keeps saying. I think it's something that they're gradually going to have to keep building on and building the confidence and trusting on everybody that everyone's doing their job on defense. The offense, obviously, because it's preseason, Lillard and CJ and no, actually, Norm I think played in the second half, but Lillard and CJ for sure only played the first half.
Yeah.
And honestly, Lillard came out in that first quarter and looked like he was still in playoff mode. He was on fire once again, of course.
Yeah, that's to be expected.
Yeah, he ended up finishing with 19 points and just a half of basketball. And I mean, obviously, we're talking preseason, so there's give and takes from it. I think what I saw, I did see more ball movement. I saw Lillard off the ball a lot more, it seemed like, where normally we would not see Lillard off the ball. So it was nice to see. CJ made a couple nice plays. CJ started off slow. And I know a couple of us were in the chat talking, and we were all, making jokes like, oh, here we go again. But then CJ kind of caught on. And one of my biggest, and I will talk about a little bit more, is Simon's running point. He actually looked like he could play point guard, and it actually looked like it would work.
Oh
So
yeah, I forgot I mentioned that. Like his playmaking was definitely a lot better, a lot more, a lot improved, very improved.
yeah, and we'll get to that a little bit more in just a second. But I did like I did like what I saw. I think once again, unfortunately, a no-name player. Well, no, I wouldn't say no-name player, but just a lower named player, Jordan Poole, went off on us for 30 points, and I just was having flashbacks of Austin Rivers. But it's preseason. We can't put too much into it. But as far as the second game is going, I haven't watched much of it. I've watched a little bit of it. We're gonna get into it a little bit later. What our concerns are and our thoughts are. This game, pretty much none of the starters are playing besides Nurkic. Simmons is playing. Nasir Little's not playing. And like Fawad said, I kind of felt like in the first game, it felt like he was trying to force too much, trying to do a little too much every time. And I think he just needs to let the game come to him and slow down. I'm sure he probably hears all the talk about how excited everybody is for him, and that was his first chance to get out there and be like, "Okay, this is what you guys are gonna get." And I think it just was a little too much. But I'm still big on him, and I know we all are, and I'm still excited to see what he's got. But for the second game here, Sacramento's playing most of their starters. It looked like all the way into the third quarter at least, and we were after it was a close game at halftime, but third quarter they kind of blew it open. But then we started to make a little run. It's like I said, I haven't been watching much. I know Fouad said he watched a little bit more of it than I have. So if you have anything you want to add in there, it's kind of been a messy game. It's not been too much that I've liked to see. I can tell you right now, Patterson is not going to be making the team. I can tell you that.
Yeah, it hurts to watch him play. But yeah, so I've been watching most of the game tonight. I've missed a fair bit of the third quarter, but other than that, I watched. Um, so I guess I'll start. First of all, like you said, half the roster isn't playing. I think none of the starters except Nurk are. Um, yeah, Roku didn't play. Yeah, and out of the rotation players, it's just him, Ant, and Larry Nance. So like right away, there's not much you can even look at from this game except for who's going to get the last roster spot and how Simons is playing. And continuing from last game, I thought his playmaking is so much better than last year. He's making like the right passes, and then he's making good passes too. Like they're on point. He has good vision. I'm very impressed with him in that regard. And then he's scoring really well too. He's getting inside almost at will, and his finishing is a lot better. Let me see what he's shooting right now. And
I
just in general, he's like a lot more composed than he used to be.
Yeah, his finishing, the plays that I have seen from him, he's made some tough layups and look under control while he's making those layups. So it's not like he's just kind of getting lucky and tossing the ball up. It looks like he's putting the ball where he wants the ball to go.
Yeah, so he's shooting 7 for 10 from inside the three. He's missed all his threes, but like we know he's a good shooter, so it's not nothing to worry about.
Sure.
7 from 10 inside the arc. That's really good. And I know he took like one or two jumpers too. So let's say 6 layups that he made. I don't know, whatever. His finishing definitely. I liked what I saw, and he just missed another three, so he's over 7 now, I guess. Um, but yeah, I'm very happy with what I see from Ant. I liked what I saw from Larry Nance a little bit. I wanted to see him try to score a little bit more. We didn't see that, but his passing was really good. Especially his chemistry with Nurk, them passing between each other and like with the other players. I like that a lot. Um, and his help defense really good, just exactly what I expected it to be. I liked what I saw from him. I just wish everyone else was playing so we could have seen how the team defense is. We can't really read into it too much except for Nance and Nurk's individual defense. And like I said, Nance, I liked. Nurk's defense was really aggressive. I know that's what he talked about at the end of last season. He wanted to be more aggressive, and he wanted the coach to allow him to do that. And I thought I not noticed that a lot. He was helping. He was stepping up on the traps. And then he would recover quickly back to the paint. I liked what I saw from him. On offense, I thought he was just okay. I think he fumbled the ball like once or twice. You know, the Nurk things, what he does.
Yep.
But then, like I said, him and Nance both had good chemistry and they were passing well. And Nurk had like a sequence where he had like 2 or 3 backdoor passes like he always does, and those were pretty as always. So, and for the most part, he was playing good. I wish his scoring could have, or like his finishing was, there was a little bit more for us to see, but I didn't see too much. Yeah, he's 2 for 4, and I don't even know how many of those were like finishes.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
it's kind of like what Jason Quick said. He's still not finishing around the rim, and it's like the one piece that we need him to do is it like puts his whole game together. If he can finish at the rim, it makes him such a threat inside. It makes him such a threat outside because of his passing, and he has been shooting threes. You know, he started shooting threes towards the end of the playoffs, and that first preseason game, I think he hit at least one, maybe two. I can't remember. So it just kind of spreads everything out for us. And if he can just get that finishing inside back to the way when he first came to us, you know, when there was Nurk fever and everyone was, you know, losing their mind with how crazy he was, I think that just boosts us up even higher.
yeah, he only took 1 3 today and didn't make it, but he had a mid-range that was like, that still helps with our spacing a little bit.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, he did have one dunk inside, which was good to see. He didn't just have like a soft lane, but he was pretty much wide open. So again, that doesn't tell us too much.
I think I did see that one. I think it was off of a pass and he did finish
Yeah.
that. Um do you have anything else you want to add to this game? The second
Oh,
game
and
here?
then yeah, for sure. Completely forgot about Dennis Smith Jr. He's been playing so good.
Mm.
He has not. Oh, he started off 7 for 7. I didn't realize he missed a shot after that. He's 7 for 8 now. He's making such good passes. He probably would have had 10 assists if he didn't have to play with LB and Blevins, who can't hit a shot for their life. But he's playing. He's really impressed me, and I didn't want him initially to get that last roster spot, because we don't really need another undersized guard. But the way he's been playing, I think it's hard to argue anyone else over him of the training camp guys.
Yeah, and so with you saying that, let's transition into this next question here. Who do we think should get the last roster spot? And from what you just said, I think we're going to be in agreement here. I actually think it should be Dennis Smith Jr. What he's done these first two games is very encouraging, and honestly, he was a good player when he even when he played for Dallas, he was still he was still good. So it's like, or wait, was he drafted by Dallas or was he drafted by New York? Why am I having
I think he
a
was. I think he was drafted by New York.
New York? Okay. Either
I
way,
think.
whichever team he got traded to after his, dunk rookie or his dunk contest where everyone was freaking out about him, he still was a decent player. And I think if he's on our team, it's nice to have with Lillard and have, Simons there. We still have a safety net with him. I'm gonna
Oh,
be
he was
honest
drafted
with
by
you.
Dallas. My bad.
He was Dallas. Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking once I said it. With that being said, if it was my choice, first off, I know it's his cousin. There's no way that Blevins should be on any NBA roster. So
But he isn't on the roster though. He's just on a two-way. He's not taking up a
that's
spot
that's
from
true. That is true.
anyone else.
That is a good point. I think CJ Ellaby should not probably be on our team either. He almost looks like he's gotten worse, and a lot of people I've seen say the same thing. He's young still. I know he was just a second round pick, but it's just some of the things I see from him. I don't know if it's ever going to get much better. And I honestly would like to have Dennis Smith Jr. and Marquise Chris on our team over those two. So if they're, I know it's only one spot we're looking for it, so it kind of sucks. But for me, I think I think Dennis Smith Jr. is the right choice for that last roster spot. Whether they want to do the small guard again, I wouldn't blame them if they didn't want to. But so far with these two preseason games and what we've seen kind of like in practice clips, I feel like Dennis Smith Jr. is the answer for who our 14th spot is.
Okay, so I have a couple thoughts about like a lot of the stuff you said, mostly in agreement, but I'm just gonna kind of ramble on for a minute. So if I'm
Go for it.
incoherent, just let me know. So first, like you said, or I already talked about how what's his name? Dame's cousin, Blevins.
Blevins.
He's not on a roster spot, so I don't really care about him. Like he's not taking a spot away from anyone. Ellaby, I agree. He does not look like an NBA player, and it would help us quite a bit if he wasn't there anymore. That said, he's not going to be waived. I don't think that's even remotely possible. Because one, that's since we're in the repeater tax, that's like I don't even know 5 million probably wasted money, and that's just not even like that common practice to just waive a guy. Usually, you attach a second rounder and dump him to a team, and then basically pay them to waive him with the second round picks. I want us to do that. Just send him away. I don't care if we lose a second round pick. And that would allow us to sign both Chris and Dennis Smith, like you said. Um, I honestly don't think we'll do that. I think we're just gonna keep him and maybe trade him at the deadline or whatever.
I do too.
Unfortunately, so I think, and we do have two roster spots technically, but 14 and 15. But like obviously, Olshey as usual will only fill it to 14, so he has a little bit more flexibility later on. And honestly, I think I agree with that. Like I think the flexibility later on could be useful, but I do hope that they at least consider it because we will inevitably have an injured big man, and we're gonna need someone to fill those minutes. And honestly, Chris didn't even look that good the first game. Tonight, he's looked a little bit better. Um, he's made like some good passes. He's scored like 10 points, which is okay. So I still don't love him. He's not even that tall. He's like 6'9" or something like that. But he's the biggest guy of the training camp people, so I kind of want him as well.
Isn't that sad?
Um,
6'9's our biggest.
yeah, I wish we signed an actual center, like Hardenstein, like we talked about earlier. So if it is one guy, I am now in favor of Dennis Smith. I wanted Chris before just because he's like the biggest, but I think Dennis Smith has made it hard to not want him. Um, and then what was the other thing? Yeah,
Um,
so Patrick Patterson, obviously no. Quinn
yeah.
Cook isn't bad, but we have no need for him. He's just another small scoring guard. Like unlike Dennis Smith Jr., unlike Quinn Cook, Dennis Smith Jr. actually provides like playmaking, which
Hmm.
is something we need. Even though Ant has improved in that, like I said. But yeah, so I wish we find a way to get Chris and Dennis Smith, but I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Let me ask you one more person we haven't talked about at all, actually. And I've only really seen practice clips from him, so take it with a grain of salt. But Greg Brown, some of the clips that I've seen from him, I kind of like what I see from him.
For a second round pick, yeah, I definitely like what I see. He's
Yeah, especially.
insanely athletic. Um, like one of the most athletic guys we've had in the last few years. So as a second round pick, I'm happy with that. Let's see what he does when he gets a little bit better in a couple of years. Hopefully he develops nicely, but I don't think he'll have a huge impact this year.
I feel like he's the type of second round pick you want, where Ellaby is not the type of second round pick you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think when it comes down to those two, I think Greg Brown has a better ceiling than Ellaby does, and hopefully we're right. And Patterson just made a terrible pass to nobody. I mean, I don't know. He's like 47 years old, and I'm sure he's a really nice locker room guy, but I don't know how he could make a team. It is not looking good. He just threw it to the bench on the other team. Uh, what's your Do you have anything else you want to talk about with that last roster spot?
I think I covered mostly everything. Just I have concerns either way, whichever way we go. But yeah, like I said, I think Dennis Smith Jr. has to be the option.
Okay. So let's talk about what we're looking forward to with the season, and maybe if we do have concerns or something that we're, hesitant about, what's something for you that you're looking forward to?
We've talked about this countless times now, but Nasir Little, I can't wait to see how much he's improved. All the hype we've been hearing from the team, I can't wait to see what he has to offer.
We just had a nice dunk by Greg Brown right there
Yeah,
off
that
of
was
an
pretty nice.
offensive rebound. Um, yeah, I mean, obviously, we're all big on Nasir Little, and we're excited to see what he's got. And kind of like what Jason Quick said, it's kind of how we feel about Gary Trent, where we're like expecting to see that jump that Gary Trent made, and we're excited to see Little do it. And I look forward to that. I'm just gonna say this: I'm just happy that basketball's back. As
Mm-hmm,
I
100%.
know, we started this podcast in the playoffs essentially, and you know, right as we were starting to get going and I was having a good time making episodes, the season was over. So it was just like it feels good to finally be able to actually talk about meaningful basketball again and not just off-season rumors and is Dame going to get traded and is Ben Simmons going to come to us, and it's we're here, we're ready to watch basketball. I'm looking forward to Nasir Little. Probably the biggest thing I'm looking forward to though is what how Chauncey Billups does and how our defense looks, because we all can agree that our defense was just atrocious. I think if what he said and the way he talks about it happens, we're going to be a dangerous team, and I hope we are. Um, that's what I'm most looking forward to. It also is what I'm most hesitant about because it's so hard to get a new coach and have these players learn new schemes on defense and on offense and not revert back to what they've been doing for the past 7 years. That it's it is concerning to hear these new changes and be like, are they really going to make those changes? I hope they do, but for me that's what I'm most hesitant about. I'm not worried about the players. We have super good players. Our starting lineup, there's not many starting lineups I would take over what we have if they can just buy into this defensive mindset that Billups keeps talking about. So what about you? Do you have anything you're hesitant or concerned about?
Yeah, but first of all, I just want to 1000% agree with just being excited that Blazers basketball is back. Even if we're not good, it's better to have Blazers basketball than to be stuck in the off season just waiting. Um, but yeah, what I'm hesitant about, basically what you said, I don't know if our defense will be good. Everyone's saying the right things. Um, in theory, based on like some of the good years with Stotts, we should be able to get at least close to the top 10 in the league. I'm not expecting that, and I'm just hoping we can stay like average, like around 15, and I'll be more than happy with that. But then I'm concerned that it might not improve much more than what it was last year, and we might still be stuck around like the bottom 10, like 20 to 25. Um, yeah, like the Stotts defense has been ingrained in these guys, so it's going to take a while to unlearn that. And then on top of that, we don't even know how capable some of these guys are. Like Dame and CJ are undersized. It's always going to be hard to have a good defense with them, even though we have done it in the past. In I want to say 2018 when we were top six. It's a hard. It's difficult to expect us to be good with them.
Yeah, and let's just be honest. It can't get much worse than what it already was defensively. So, worst case
Well,
scenario, we're back to where we started, and we gotta hope that our offense can be number one again, or else it's
I
gonna be
said that
ugly.
2 years ago when we were 27th. How much worse? It can't possibly get worse. And then we went to 29th. So
I
let's
mean,
just.
that's true. You're right. I have a hard time believe. Never mind. I'm not even gonna say it. I'll stop myself. I'll stop. I'll stop. So I want to talk about just a couple more things real quick. In the off season, we talked about trade ideas for CJ when we were all on the CJ trade rumor hype train that was going on, and we talked about Ben Simmons. And at the time, I said if we could get a CJ for Ben Simmons trade somehow, I think we should do it. I have 100% reversed my decision on that, and I think I'm so glad we didn't pull the trigger if there ever was one. What he has done this offseason has turned me off to Ben Simmons. Yeah, he's a good defensive player. Yeah, he's a a good playmaker. The way he's acted, I want no part of that on my team whatsoever. And I hope most of the people that at first wanted Ben Simmons are now happy we don't have him. But I just how do you feel? I can't remember if you were on board for Ben Simmons or not, but I
I
know
don't think I was.
I'm not for
Um,
sure now. I can tell you that.
yeah, I wasn't in favor. I think I said maybe if it's like a straight up swap, I might consider it, but like even that I wouldn't know. But I know there's still a lot of people that would want it, and I see all the reasons like why you would. He's a good defender. He's like what, 2, 3 time All-Star. Um, the fit could possibly be better. He might be able to take us to another level. I see all the reasons. I just think the risk highly outweighs the reward, and I honestly don't think the reward is that high either. I think like he's this is not even gonna sound like everyone's saying these days, but he's overrated in a lot of areas. Like specifically, I think his playmaking is not that impressive. Um, and we've seen what happens in the playoffs. So I don't want to touch him. I don't want him to, like you said, the way he's acted that could mess with our chemistry as well. There's just so many things that I'm concerned about with him, and I don't know. I don't think it's worth the risk. However, I do still think that we should find a trade for CJ if one exists. Um, that's just not Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, I still think if there's a way for us to have CJ traded, put Powell at at the 2 spot and get a
Where he
3
belongs.
or a 4,
Exactly.
in return for CJ, I think is our best bet. Um, one
Also,
thing, go ahead.
I think when we talked about it, that might have been before we got Larry Nance, and I think Larry
That is
Nance
true. It was.
helps make up for or he a lot of his skills match up with Ben Simmons' skills, even though he might not be as good. But whatever Simmons would have brought, I think Larry Nance brings a lot of those things as well, like help defense. He doesn't bring on-ball defense as well, but he's still overall a really good defender. He's a good playmaker. He can shoot, which is something Simmons can't do.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I think especially after getting him, I think it really diminishes our need for Simmons.
And I do agree. I think Nance, first off, I think Nance was one of the best moves in offseason for most teams. Like I think I saw a poll somewhere that some article had that the GMs in the NBA said Larry Nance's signing with us was one of the best moves in the offseason. And
Yeah, the GMs voted as the most underrated, I think.
yeah, that's what it was. I 100% agree. I think Nance is going to be a big deal for us, a big improvement for us, and as long as he can stay healthy, I'm excited to see what he can do for us.
Okay, while we're talking about Nance, I was gonna ask this a little bit later, but I know the starting lineup is gonna be Dame, CJ, Norm, Rocco, and Nurk. But how would you feel about starting Nance instead of Covington and bringing Covington off the bench? Who do you prefer as a starter?
To start the season, I would want Rocco out there, but if for any reason it, it doesn't seem to be working as well, and when Nance is in there, it seems to work a little better. I have no problem at all flipping them and having Nance start. I think Rocco plays off-ball defense much better than most people in the NBA. There's not many that I would consider him being better. He gets his hand on so many passes, deflecting passes. And honestly, Larry Nance does the same thing, not to the extent that Covington does. But to start the game or to start the season, I think Covington's the right call. But I wouldn't be upset if it changed. And I think it's going to work either way. I think Covington's I think Nance is such a glue guy. It doesn't matter where you put him in, it's going to work. He's going to do what needs to be done to make it work. So I'm good with either way. I would just choose Covington to start.
Yeah, I saw some people talking about it on Reddit. That's why I was just thinking about it myself. I think I agree with you, especially since what you just said, like Nance can fit either way with the bench or the starters, and I think Covington fits a little bit more with the Dame and CJ. He's
I
just
agree.
there to shoot and has no other like offensive responsibility. Just shoot and play D. Whereas if he was on the bench, we might need someone who can create a little bit more.
Hmm.
But the one thing that really makes me want to see Nance start is him and Nurk together. I feel like those lineups have a lot of potential. But as long as we play like other lineups in the middle of the game that have those two together, I think I'm satisfied. And then just keep Covington with the starters for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think it's a good problem to have to not
Yeah,
be
for sure.
sure who you should put in
Unlike
there.
unlike a couple years ago when we're like our best or our only forwards would not make the
Yeah,
rotation in some
yeah,
teams.
right. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
Um, there was like one small thing that I wanted to talk about. It's like just the most irrelevant thing, but I was thinking about it a couple days ago, so I guess might as well
Let's
talk
go
about
for
it
it.
here. Um, I don't think I talked about it in a previous podcast, but what I guess it kind of falls into my concerns for the season. So you know how O'Shea always has really good mid-season trades. Like he got Nurk mid-season, Norm, I think Rodney Hood. Yeah, Rodney Hood was mid-season as well.
Yep.
So he always has these like really good trades around the deadline. And then I was looking at like our salaries this season, and my concern is that I feel like he might not be able to do that this season because all of our players either make way too much, like Dame and CJ, and they're not really tradable. I guess CJ is tradable, or they make way too little, like Simmons, Nasir, little, and then the Vetman guys. There's not enough money there to pool together to get an impact player in return, and the only people in that the sweet spot are Covington, Nurk, and I think Larry Nance as well. And like none of those guys I want to trade. So I'm just a little bit concerned that what our roster that we have right now is probably going to be the roster that we have in the playoffs, unless we decide to make a big trade and either move CJ or like one of the starters in Nurk. Probably won't be Nurk, but Covington, or Nance.
Yeah, that's exactly what I expect. What the roster we have now, if it plays out the way we think, where we're going to be a playoff team, and it's not going to be like a bottom playoff. We're going to be maybe in that middle section, or as long as we're in that playoff, top 8, and we're not like playing the 9, 10, 8, 9, 8, 9, 7 game, I don't think we're going to make any changes. I don't think we can. Now, we get off to a slow start and it's getting close to the All-Star break and we're like at the, 9 or 10 spot, but it's close. I could see us trying to make a big trade with CJ, saying, it's now or never. We got to do something. CJ, like you said, the smaller contracts we can't do much with. We're not going to get a caliber player for those small contracts, like you said. So CJ or Nurk are pretty much the only two, maybe Covington, but I don't even know. I'm trying to think of what player we could get with Covington. I don't know if that's like a championship team getting Covington and us rebuilding. Essentially, that's the kind of move we would get with Covington. So I think if we do end up doing a trade, it's gonna probably involve CJ. Or Nurk, and it kind of depends on. I think another thing, if our season starts off slow and it's not looking good, how the front office feels about Nurk. If they're thinking we're going to try to re-sign him, or if they're saying it's not going to work, we need to move on from him because he's already came out saying that he's had issues, and then Billups came and then he was happy with what was being said. We know how fast that can change, so I guess it kind of depends on what the season starts to look like and their feelings on Nurk if they're open with trading him, because I don't think they want to trade Nurk. I think they like having him, and he's a great center to have.
Yeah, and his relationship with Dame is really strong
Hmm.
too, so I think he might not be too happy if we trade him.
And
But
and that's another thing. I think everything they should be talking with Dame about. Like if
yeah, for sure.
Lillard says no, I don't want Nurk gone. I don't think we should do it unless you're planning on getting rid of Dame too, because that's just going to drive him out.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
We don't want that.
Um, I guess similarly, about what I just talked about, like midseason trades. I asked this to Quick last episode. What do you think about trading Ant around the deadline, or do you think we should keep him long term because of like another guard? What are your thoughts on him?
Well,
Or do you just want to see how he plays first before deciding?
if they don't try to extend him, which I think it's coming up pretty soon, the
Yeah,
deadline.
it's due before the start of the season, so about a week.
If they don't, I that doesn't look good. If they're not willing to extend him, I would feel less confident that that he might be traded. I mean, he's young, so there are teams that would want to, some rebuilding teams that would want him.
Yeah,
I
we might
wouldn't
be
be
able to get like
surprised. It's just the money issue at that point, making the money work. But I hope he's so young. Like, I mean, he's 22, I think. I think he just turned 22. He's so young, but he's been in the NBA for 4 years now.
this is his fourth year, yeah.
Yeah, it's like he's got so much more potential because of how young he is and the experience he has already. So, like Lillard said, he's growing up. He's got tattoos now. I don't know who he is anymore.
Yeah, we're in a tough spot with him money wise too, because if we try, we probably will try to extend him, but we won't want to pay too much money in case he doesn't make that big of a jump, and then we're overpaying him.
Right.
But then if we can't come to, and he's obviously gonna want more money, but then if we can't come to an agreement, and then he does play like insanely well, then we're gonna have to pay him a ton, and then we might not want to do that. It's just so many things to consider.
Yeah. I mean, let's be happy we don't got Ben Simmons. We don't have to worry about that drama. They went crazy with their trade requests for 3 first-round picks, 3 pick swaps,
What?
and CJ for Ben Simmons. I don't know what they're smoking in Philadelphia, but it's a lot more potent than what we're smoking here because that is insane.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
would. I don't want him in the first place, but objectively, I don't think he's worth more than like CJ in one pick. And
Yeah,
this
that's
guy's
the
asking for
max
3
you're
and 3
getting from
swaps.
me too. Yeah, 3 and 3 and CJ. If they got that off, that's the greatest move in NBA history for the Philadelphia 76ers. That is just crazy. Anything? The last one for the preseason slash off season. We're gonna try to at least do one podcast a week during the regular season. It might not be every week, but we're gonna try to. As always, if you're not already following us on Twitter or if you haven't joined our Discord yet, get in there and talk. We're going to try to do some like watch parties where we all watch the game at the same time on Discord and just join a voice channel and just all kind of talk and have a good time. So if you're not doing that already, try to get into Discord, follow us on Twitter. There's a link in our bio for the Discord. You can join in. It's a good time. We all talk. We have a good time in there. Anything else, Fuad?
We might, hopefully, we might have a special episode coming out
That
soon
is
as
true.
well.
That is
Probably
true.
not before the start of the season, but hopefully early on.
That is true.
That's all we'll say about that for now.
We got some things working, hopefully. We've already got one special interview. We're trying to get another one, and hopefully there's more to come, but we're just going to keep putting podcasts out because we enjoy it. We like talking about Blazers. We just do it for fun. We're not looking for money or anything. It's just fun talking about Blazers, having a good time, making jokes, and trying to get through a season without crying because some injury happens or we're not performing well, and all of us freaking out about Lillard. So once again, Fawad, thanks for coming tonight. Had a good time. We missed Mike, but hopefully he's here for the next one. Anything else you want to add?
I think it's really late in Portugal, so
yeah, he's a warrior. 3:00 in the morning doing these podcasts because he's up that late watching. He's a warrior. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming in and listening. Have a good night, and as always, Rip City, baby.